No one can stop me when I taste the feeling. Nothing could ever bring me down. Nothing could ever bring me down. Taste the feeling.
For total home pest control, who are you going to call?
Call the Bug Man, 923-BUGS.
For total pest control for your home or business, call the original Salvant.
Call the Bug Man today, 923-BUGS.
Exiles from what you ask? Exiled from the radio. But now, we're on your television.
I'm Bill Perfita, he's Kevin Gallagher, and they kicked us to the curb.
But we're back.
We are back with Exiles Television on the Pelican Broadcasting Network. We're going to bring you the newsmakers. We're also going to take your calls and give you great information. It's going to be the best damn radio show on television.
Look for it on your cable system or download the app, PelicanSportsTV.com.
It says here that Eric Gayward is back. Where has he been?
Well, I heard he was in the great Northwest hunting for Sasquatch.
Stop.
Really? Yeah.
I've been looking for years. Maybe Sasquatch doesn't exist.
Hello guys, it's Debbie. It's time. I've got a brand new location. 10510 Airline Highway, Baton Rouge, next to After 5 Tuxedos. We have the perfect spot to get all your wedding and formal wear needs. Come see our one-of-a-kind name brand and get great prices. With 30 years experience, the best customer service anywhere. It's Debbie's Bridal, Airline Highway, Baton Rouge. See you soon.
Hello and welcome as we start another week of the Clarence Bug Show. Here's hoping that your weekend was an absolutely fabulous one. If not, well, as we like to say each and every Monday, right about this time of the day, good Lord willing, you will still be here when the next one rolls our way, and you'll have the opportunity to try it all over again. We start today's show talking about the much anticipated, somewhat return to normalcy as far as school is concerned in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic. Joining us to start today's show and talk about preparations being made is the superintendent of the award-winning West Feliciana Parish School System, a dear friend of the show, and I consider him a friend as well, Superintendent Hollis Milton. Superintendent, good morning, and how are you today, my friend?
Good morning. I'm doing well, and thank you for having me on the show today.
You're quite welcome. So what do you and your peers see as some of the biggest hurdles logistically to reopening this fall?
Absolutely. I think you start off with your employees. How many of your employees are able and willing to come back? That's going to be an interesting challenge for all of us.
Right.
Obviously, you're trying to put every safety procedure you can into the buildings. Mm-hmm. And at the same time, with a lot of humility, we all understand this virus will do what this virus does. Mm-hmm. And so you want to make sure that you provide safety over and over to all of your students, but as well as your employees who serve those students. And so starting off with employees is one challenge, just trying to make sure that your employees feel comfortable with the new safety protocols, so when they enter the building, they can do their work. Secondly, just the safety protocols in general, meeting these thresholds. One of the greatest challenges for most districts, it has been one for us as well. In phase 2, you can only have 50% capacity on your buses.
Right.
That is, for most districts, they cannot accomplish that. We're a district, we actually can do that. It is taking a Herculean effort to put it together. But being that we're a smaller district and that we're rural, and where our schools are in the center of our parish has given us that opportunity that we can meet that threshold. But that's a major one. Another one is student-teacher ratio.
Right.
Phase 2, it's 25 to 1. We're a district. We've been so blessed. We put a huge investment in those classrooms. We make sure that we try to make sure that our student-teacher ratios sit around 20 to 1. So we actually meet that threshold. But I know for a lot of districts that's a real struggle. And between both of those, the bus issue and the student-teacher ratio, they feel like that they have to do more of a hybrid approach, maybe splitting the population in half and serving them for 2 days a week in school. And look, I have great respect for my colleagues. Every one of our colleagues are working so hard with their administrators, trying to figure out how they meet this guidance, which is important that we do. The guidance is there for a reason, to keep us safe, and yet try to have school. And so everybody is doing it slightly different, and it's because of the context of their local situation and how they meet those guidelines.
When people hear the head of a school system say, you know, we're concerned about safety and so on and so forth, they may think, well, that's the standard pat answer that everybody gives. But someone like yourself, who had a more than robust encounter with COVID-19, it certainly is spoken from the heart. Having gone through COVID-19, how has that helped you in your appreciation for your staff, the administrations, and the teachers, as well as students?
Yes, sir. And a perfect example, when we came back just in small groups, I'm talking late May, just actually coming back in our facilities to start our work. It was real easy for me to tell everybody, wear a mask.
Right.
Whether you want to wear a mask or not, I understand.
Right.
Not my favorite thing to do either, but wearing a mask is pretty simple. And I kept telling folks, I would not wish the kind of case I had with COVID on anyone, nor would I want to feel responsible in any way, any decision I made that would lead to someone contracting, especially in the way that I have. So I think in that regard, safety is always paramount. You're going to see a lot of folks talk about it. But I do think the reality that COVID now is beginning to touch everyone. At one point, I felt like maybe I was an exception to that, in the sense that I knew some people who had suffered through it, no doubt. But I knew so many people had not. It hadn't hit home to them yet. And sometimes in life, things have to hit home to you for you to really get it, right? And I felt like, in my case, that I would testify to anyone who'd be willing to hear the testimony. Do not take this lightly. Do not take it, well, it may just be the flu, because it is a lot more dangerous than the flu. And so, therefore, the precautions, we have to hit a new standard to protect people.
Obviously, when you are talking elementary school children, one of the most, if not the most popular time of the day is recess and or PE. What do you envision those two facets of the school day looking like this fall?
Yes, sir. So they definitely, just like everything else, it's going to look different. And so one of the things we will not allow, at least in our district, we're not going to allow our kids to dress out because of going into a locker room. The locker rooms are, everybody's been in a locker room. They're typically a closed, quartered area, obviously. So we're going to avoid that. So we're not going to require kids to dress out in the form and fashion that they have in the past. We're going to have to limit the interaction that our kids have. We're going to have to build smaller groups for PE so that kids can do static groups, stay in smaller groups as they go out. But we do want our kids to go out. We want them to interact as much as they can in the safest way that they can. And I would follow that same principle with recess. And we are working with our schools and been working with them for a while, just thinking about visualizing what does that look like and trying to simulate how do we navigate through that? And so we don't have the final plan completed. And I'll be very honest, even for the listeners, I think some of this we will start off very rigid, and then we will begin to see how does that look, how does it play out in the playground. And then if we need to back off a little bit because we still feel like we can meet really good safety protocols and let kids enjoy a little bit more, we'll do that as well. Look, every kid needs recess, every kid needs PE. It's good for their mental health and their physical health, and it overall helps them perform better academically. So we're going to have them. They will look different. We will likely start off from an outsider looking in, much more rigid. And then as we work through it, Clarence, we'll start to go and step back from it and say, is there a little bit more? Is there a little bit more freedom we can have with it?
Right.
How does this look within the groups? And all of that will be is the goal to keep it as safe as possible, but to continue to reimagine how we can not only be safe, but make it as enjoyable as possible for our kids.
Obviously, those that will be on the, quote, front lines are the teachers that will man the classrooms on a daily, bi-weekly, remote basis. Have you had the opportunity to speak with any of them, and how are they feeling about the return this fall?
Yes, sir. And it's a very interesting conversation because obviously you have some teachers, especially maybe because of their age or a pre-existing condition.
Right.
There are some in that camp, not all, who, because there's always diversity in groups, and that's just the nature of life. Sometimes we assume things, but it's not the case. There is a larger portion of that group, and respectfully and rightfully so, that are more concerned. And then there's also a group of teachers who go, we understand that the risk associated with this, but we know the value of educating kids in a building. We miss our kids, and we also know there's harm without those kids coming into our building.
Right.
Meaning if they're remote, how will they, how do you teach an elementary kid, especially a small baby, how do you teach them to read? Very, very difficult to do virtually.
Right.
And so there's the hard part of the virus, and we're all dealing with this as a country, as a parishes, as a state. How do you do some of the things that just need to be done and yet do it safely? And that's a wrestling match, right?
Right.
Sometimes what you need to do to serve kids is also a risk with the virus, and vice versa. So I find that teachers have mixed feelings about it. I think it's fair to say we're all nervous. I'm nervous too.
Right.
Because it's the nature of trying to put folks back into a building, and yet we know that there's this virus out there. I do think all teachers are nervous. I do have some that are very enthusiastic about coming back, and I have some on the other end of that spectrum who are very hesitant about coming back. I think there's a lot of, in the middle ground, they're both, they're excited and a little bit hesitant. It's probably the best way to describe them. And so we're just going to have to keep working on that, keep ensuring safety. And I think next week is a really important time for us because all of our teachers come back on campus.
Right.
That'll be the first time they've all been back. And I think we're going to learn a lot from that. I think even where teachers are right now, will they change as they come back, right? Will that experience do something? And I don't know what that experience will create, but
right.
I find the more we share a plan, the more we talk and engage with our teachers, the more comfortable they are.
Right.
So that is what I'm expecting next week. But I also know that with COVID-19, your expectations change daily. And I think that's something that we're all humbled by.
As is the case, Superintendent, with just about anything in life, finances play a huge role in dictating what we are able or unable to accomplish. What do you foresee from a financial standpoint as far as trying to meet all of the logistics and do all the things necessary to resume somewhat normal operations this fall?
Very expensive times to do so many of these things. that we need to do, that we will do. They just cost lots of money. So we've really looked at our budget and have tried as best we can to square away dollars and making this the highest priority in the budget. To do that at times is very painful, and yet it must be done. And I believe every district is wrestling with that. We're grateful. The federal government has given us some dollars. The governor has allocated some dollars that have been at his leisure to help us. Most of those dollars have helped us so that we can be better if we go all remotely. Distance education, meaning computers and hotspots, that has been the biggest help. There really hasn't been the enormous help, though, in those other aspects. So much of that is done on a very much a local level, and making this the highest priority in your budget, which is what we're going to do. And I would say this, Clarence, just in a high level, looking between budget, how you deal with employees, and whether parents choose to come back or they choose to go virtual.
Right.
Flexibility. Flexibility is what's going to help us get through COVID. Taking a look at everything that we do, balancing everything out, and not trying to be so hard fast in any direction, but saying, let me learn, let me listen, let me understand, and know that I've got to be very flexible right now with any new information we have about the virus, any new adjustments we need to make to be safer, and anything I need to do in the budget align with that. And I think flexibility is going to be the key for all of us at this point.
Right now, Superintendent, we are still in a very fluid situation as far as whether or not we will be able to resume high school athletics for the fall, and particularly the game of football. I've had the pleasure of attending any number of games at West Feliciana High School, and I know that that is as community-oriented an event as you will ever find in any community anywhere in America. If we're not able to resume that on time for the fall within the ranks of the high schools, what will that mean for West Feliciana Parish and the city of St. Francisville?
Well, we're going to have to work really hard as far as communication and how we keep folks connected without having that great sport that does so many things for us. And I'm included in that. It would be very painful not to have a football season, personally and professionally, for me.
Right.
And I know that you feel that pain and so many others. I'm hoping, and we keep working on it, so that we can have fall sports, especially for those kids. I mean, our kids have been working out this summer, doing conditioning. They're ready to go, when we can get them to the next level of practices. They're ready for that. And I'm hoping that if we can do it not only for them, but as you said, for our entire community. I find that sports, like so many other things, heals so much. And we need that right now in our parish, in our state, and in our nation. We desperately need sports. Sports does something for us, like almost nothing else. And so I'm hopeful that we can get back, and we're going to do everything we can, obviously, to ensure safety, whether it be the players, the coaches, or folks that could possibly even come to a game. And we're just going to keep hope alive and keep hoping that eventually something breaks free and maybe the cases die down and things start to look a little better as we get a little further in the fall.
Finally, Superintendent, best advice you could give to parents who are still trying to decide whether or not they want their children back in the traditional setting, whether they want them to continue their education remotely, or a hybrid, some combination of the two?
Understood. The thing that I've been telling parents is although you have a choice, it's a very difficult choice. I respect that and I understand it. I'm also a parent as well. So pray on it, look at all the data, make the best decision that you feel is possible for your children. And I'm going to tell you, Hollis, Milton's going to respect that. I do value and understand why families right now may not feel comfortable coming back.
Right.
And I also value and understand why some families say, you know, I know the risk, but I'm still willing for them to come back. It is a case-by-case decision, and we're going to value the decision you make, and we're also going to respect that no matter what decision you made, it was a very, very hard decision, just as the decisions that I'm making as superintendent right now are extremely, extremely hard. So.
Hollis Milton is the superintendent of the award-winning West Feliciana Parish School System. As always, my friend, thank you so much for the time. Valuable information, always disseminated. And here's hoping that I get the opportunity to see your smiling face, you and the lovely missus and all the great folks at St. Francisville and West Feliciana Parish in Saints Stadium sometime in the very near future.
Absolutely, sir. Grateful to be on your show. Grateful for you. Hopefully going to see you this fall.
Take care, my friend, and stay safe.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
He is truly a gem, and I can only hope that the good folks in West Feliciana have a true appreciation for what Hollis Milton brings to the table. He is an individual that has gone through a serious case of COVID-19. And if there's anybody that I would trust with the education of my child in the future, he certainly would be at the top of the list. We're a little bit late, so we'll go ahead and take our first break of hour one, and we will continue on with our Monday edition of the Clarence Bugg Show, right here where you've got it, only on the Pelican. Stay close.
I owed the IRS $10,000.
The IRS garnished my wages.
They put a lien on my house.
I'm self-employed and didn't report all my income. They claim I owe a lot more than I do.
The IRS is the most powerful collection agency in the world. They do not give up until you pay.
I couldn't sleep. We were being audited. I called Tax Solutions Now, and a great big weight was lifted off my shoulders.
I called Tax Solutions Now, and they got the IRS off my back.
Tax Solutions Now had my wage garnishment lifted in 48 hours.
Tax Solutions Now can get you help. Our agents know the rules, can stop the pain, and get you the best deal.
Tax Solutions Now saved my business.
I qualified for the Fresh Start program. I paid less than I owed.
We connect you with a team of former IRS agents and tax professionals who get the IRS off your back. Time is running out. Call Tax Solutions now.
Call 800-778-4345. 800-778-4345.
From appetizers, pasta dishes, and entrees, La Contea takes pride in preparing all the Italian cuisine we know you love. Enjoy live music every Thursday through Saturday from 6 to 9, happy hour weekdays from 3 to 6, and brunch on Sundays from 11 to 2, as well as dinner portion-sized lunch specials for under $10. Visit our website to view our menu and book a party or meeting in our large banquet room. Once you try La Contea, your Italian dining will change forever.
That's right, the Clarence Bugg Show is back, along with the Exiles, Bill Profita and Kevin Gallagher. We've put the band back together, South Louisiana's talk team, and it's only on the Pelican. 10 a.m. till 12 noon, right here on the Pelican.
Hi, I'm Bobby Yarborough with Manda Fine Meats. Here at Manda, we know what the folks of South Louisiana love. They love great flavored smoked sausage, delicious deli meats, and specialty items like boudin and andouille sausage. Manda Fine Meats has been providing these products since 1947. We produce them right here in Baton Rouge, so you know you're always getting the freshest product at your local grocery store. Manda Fine Meats. Taste the fresh local flavor in everything we make. Make it Manda every time.
Bolello's Furniture and Appliances, your dependable independent. Depend on us for service, for selection, for price. Get huge Whirlpool savings. Shop now and save on Whirlpool appliances throughout the store. Plus, experience our price match guarantee and ask about special financing. You can depend on the know-how of people who live appliances every day. Bolello's Furniture and Appliances, your dependable independent with nationwide buying power.
Welcome back to hour one of our Monday edition of the Clarence Bug Show. Here's hoping that you have been so very kind and thoughtful to keep the good folks right next door in the great state of Texas in both your thoughts and your prayers. As you, I'm sure, are well aware of by now, Hannah dumping a good bit of rain on a lot of parts of our neighbors in the Lone Star State. And of course, we here in the Bayou State, we are more than familiar with dealing with hurricanes and flooding and things of that magnitude. And of course, you know, the old saying is, there but by the grace of God go I. It could well have been us. So those of you that happen to be members of the community of faith, please be so kind as to keep our neighbors in the Lone Star State in both your thoughts and in your prayers. Speaking of neighbors here in the Baton Rouge area, and Marty, just to give you and Alan a heads up, I saw the reset on the clock, but we do have an interview for 10:30, so I'm going to dump out a little early on this one to be sure that we get to that particular interview on time, just as to give you a little bit of a heads up. Want to say a very warm Louisiana welcome, and I've not been able to ascertain just yet if any of these individuals that are back in Baton Rouge were here before, but more than 30 medical workers from our esteemed military are at Baton Rouge General Medical Center to help care for COVID-19 and other patients in the ICU at the Mid-City campus at Baton Rouge General. You probably remember previously, back in April, as a matter of fact, 74 members of the military came to Baton Rouge and other parts of our state, for that matter, to help out in the battle against COVID-19. This 33-member team is back to help nurses and doctors with the amount of patients that are affecting the hospital there. I can only imagine that the word got around that if you're a member of the military and you are going to Louisiana to help the folks out there, particularly Baton Rouge and other parts in the southern part of the state, you might want to get in your mind prepared early. You're going to have to do a lot of working out, because the food that the folks are going to feed you down there in Louisiana, not to mention the hospitality of the people in general, is something that you will well remember. So for the 33 members of the military that are gracing us with their presence, not to mention their medical skills, we wish you a very warm South Louisiana welcome. And if there is anything that we can do to make your stay more pleasant, please do not hesitate. We are the kind of folks here that we love to accommodate. We love having people come and visit. And if nothing else, if they don't treat you right, well, you let me know, and I'll take care of those folks for you. It is a pleasure to have you here, and hopefully your stay will be as great as what we feel from a hospitality standpoint in having you here. We cherish you being here. We thank you for your service to our country, and we certainly thank you for the service that you are rendering to the good folks here as we all continue our fight against COVID-19. After we take our next commercial break, there is Clarence, you always telling us about stuff that's invading Louisiana. Well, I just gave you the heads up before on the murder hornets. They hadn't arrived here yet, but there is something here. And I'm sad to say some of us may have contributed to this that is affecting two of the most well-known commodities here in Louisiana and individuals, our rice farmers and our crawfishermen. And it's something that if we don't get a handle on this thing, it could very well have some devastating results for two industries, rice growers, crawfishermen, that we hold dear here in Louisiana. After this break, we'll spend some time with Mr. Blake Wilson. He is a pest researcher with the LSU Ag Center to tell you all about it. That's up next after our bottom of the hour break here on the Clarence Bug Show, right where you've got it, only on the Pelican. Stay close.
Hi, I am Dr. Farrell Frugier Jr., and I am a general dentist at Frugier Family Dentistry. I was born and raised in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. I went to Catholic High School, LSU, and LSU School of Dentistry in New Orleans, where I received my DDS degree in 1986. I always have and will continue to be committed to continuing my education, to invest in technology which makes the diagnosis and delivery of dentistry more thorough, more comfortable, and more aesthetically pleasing. In our practice, we are here to serve the patients. We want to improve their quality of life and to develop relationships with our patients. In dentistry, we have a chance to impact lives on a daily basis, not just by doing dentistry, but by getting to know them and being a part of their life. We also believe in giving back to our community. So every year, we give back to the Greater Baton Rouge Food Bank, Toys for Tots, and Mary Bird Perkins Cancer Center. Please stop by and visit our office. We would love to take care of you and your family.
Jaguar Nation, we need your help in masking up Louisiana.
Masks help us slow the spread of COVID-19.
During this time, we must continue to wear a mask, wash our hands, and practice social distancing.
It's important that we continue to abide by the CDC's guidelines to stop the spread.
Jaguar Nation, we challenge you to mask up. Go Jags!
Hello, guys. It's Debbie. It's time. I've got a brand new location. 10510 Airline Highway, Baton Rouge, next to After 5 Tuxedos. We have the perfect spot to get all your wedding and formal wear needs. Come see our one-of-a-kind name brand and get great prices. With 30 years experience, the best customer service anywhere. It's Debbie's Bridal, Airline Highway, Baton Rouge. See you soon.
For total home pest control, who are you going to call?
Call the Bug Man, 923-BUGS.
For total pest control for your home or business, call the original Salvant.
Call the Bug Man today, 923-BUGS.
They said I could find you here. Why are you fishing? Our company's got to ship out 2 full color brochures and 20 color copies. You're killing me.
It's done. Designed, printed, packaged, and shipped.
How?
You just got to know the right people. Baker Printing, the printing people.
How come you get to fish in this private lake?
Like I said, you just got to know the right people. You can know the right people too.
Welcome back to hour one of our Monday edition of the Clarence Bug Show. You know, just when you think, okay, we've narrowed this thing down to where all we have to worry about now is COVID-19, along comes something else affecting us here in South Louisiana. If you are a true Louisianian, particularly from the southern part of our state, when it comes to the diet, rice and crawfish are 2 things that we just cannot do without. I mean, it's a staple. It's a part of everyday life and something that we all know and love. Unfortunately, rice growers, crawfishermen find themselves now, aside from battling COVID-19, now battling a pest that has the potential to do some devastating harm to the rice crop and the crawfish crop. It is something that most of us, and I will be the first to admit, had no clue was out there until I stumbled across an article dealing with the apple snail. And you heard me correct. Apple as in what we used to bring to the teacher every day. Snail, slimy with the shell. That thing. Come to find out, the apple snail is now in South Louisiana and has, again, the potential to do some devastating harm to the rice crop and, of course, the crawfish crop, because in many instances, those two are uniquely intertwined. Many rice growers also raise crawfish in the same location. So to find out more about this, we reached out to Blake Wilson, pest researcher with the LSU Ag Center, and he very graciously consented to give us some time today. Blake, good morning, and how are you today, sir?
Good morning, Clarence. I'm doing well.
So what exactly is the apple snail, and do we know how it ended up here in South Louisiana?
Yes, so apple snails are very large snails from South America. They are called apple snails because when they're mature, they can reach the size approximately of an apple. So they're much larger than any snails that are native to Louisiana. And they've actually been in the state for more than 15 years, and we think the source of this introduction was from the aquarium fish industry. They were popular fish tank pets, and when they get very large, people would dump them into natural bodies of water where they became established.
So how does the apple snail affect the rice crop and the crawfish crop?
With rice, they're major pests in other countries. They've also been introduced to Asia and Spain, where they consume seedling rice shortly after it's planted. Here in Louisiana, the impacts have been minimal because we typically plant in a dry field, which is flooded only later once the rice is a bit taller and no longer susceptible.
Right.
But we have seen one instance where a field was water seeded and the snails just wiped out all the rice as it was germinating, causing it to be required to be replanted.
Wow. So if ingested by humans, the apple snail, what are the potential health effects there?
Yes, so the snail's eggs are toxic. They contain a neurotoxin that you want to avoid eating, so they have to be properly cleaned. But also they can contain a parasite called the rat lungworm that can infect humans' brains and cause a lot of medical consequences.
Wow. How prolific are these snails, Blake, when it comes to reproduction?
They're extremely prolific, and they reach very high densities. In the summertime, they can reproduce at a rate of about 200 to 400 eggs per every 10 days. So a single female can produce thousands of babies during the summer.
Do we have the means to eradicate the apple snail?
We do not. It looks like this species is here to stay, and we're aiming to mitigate it and stop it from spreading into new areas, but we do not have the tools that we would need to take on something like eradication.
If, worst case scenario, left unchecked, what would this mean to the rice growers and the crawfishermen in the state of Louisiana?
Well, the crawfish are where we're seeing the biggest impact. It's really affecting these operations because they're catching, in many cases, more snails than crawfish.
Wow.
And they have to sort through their catch, and really slows down these operations. So it could, if it spreads to all the crawfish production acres, it would have an immense impact through the industry.
So far, do we know if the apple snail population is limited strictly to pond-grown, or in this case, rice crop-grown crawfish, or is this something that we need to worry about out in the wild as well?
The snails are present in lots of natural bodies of water throughout the southern part of the state, including in the Atchafalaya Basin, where they do some crawfishing there as well. Although I've not heard of impacts to those crawfishermen. Yes.
What about recreational crawfishermen? Those of us that decide we want to have a crawfish boil and we've got a boat, we go out fishing, we set some traps to feed whatever group of people we're going to have over to the house. Should they be worried as well about all of this, Blake?
They could be. I think the impacts are going to be greater for commercial fishermen that are doing this on a larger scale.
Right.
The recreational crawfishermen will encounter some snails, but I think it shouldn't impact their ability to catch crawfish.
I was just handed a note by my floor producer. Says he is, quote, asking for a friend. Do they taste like apples?
I don't believe so. I've never tasted them personally, but my understanding is they taste awful.
Yeah. I can only imagine that this is not going to be something that crawfishermen will absorb all by themselves, the financial impact. If we aren't able to get a handle on this thing relatively soon, because of all the extra things logistically involved to ensure the safety of the crawfish that we eat, maybe an unintended consequence here will be higher prices for crawfish in South Louisiana?
It's possible down the road. As I mentioned, right now it's really a small number of farms that are impacted, but if it starts to affect crawfish production across the industry, that's certainly something that could be a possibility.
You know, as you are well aware of, Blake, we are animal lovers here in South Louisiana. And according to what you told us not so very long ago in this interview, we are of the opinion that a lot of this comes from individuals purchasing these apple snails, putting them in their aquarium, and once they get too large, then we release them into the wild. This is not the first time in South Louisiana we've seen our ecosystem impacted by something that someone bought as a pet and then ended up releasing out into the wild. Can you stress enough how important it is that we all do our due diligence and the proper research before releasing something into the wild that is not a, quote, native species to the state of Louisiana?
Yeah, absolutely. The pet trade has been the source of a number of exotic introductions of different invasive species in the U.S., and I encourage everyone to not release any pets into the wild as they could pose potential threats.
Blake Wilson is a pest researcher with the LSU Ag Center. Blake, good information. Thank you so much for the time, my friend, and do us all a favor and stay safe, Blake.
Okay, thank you, Clarence.
You're quite welcome. It is one of those instances where it's probably done with the best of intentions. You know, you've had this thing in your aquarium since it was, you know, that big. And now the darn thing is as big as an apple, and, you know, you got to do something with it. Listen, I understand. You're an animal lover. You don't want to kill the thing. But in many instances, the worst thing you can do is to release something into the wild that is not a native species. Look at the carp wreaking havoc in our waterways now, the fish, for those of you that don't know. You're motoring down the bayou, or you're watching a fishing show, and you see these fish that come jumping out of the water when you startle them with the boat motor. Those are carp. They're not native to Louisiana, and they are wreaking havoc on the ecosystem. Look at all the folks out there that thought, oh man, I'd love to have a snake as a pet, and you go out and you buy a boa constrictor of some sort. And once it gets too big for you to feed, or you get married and you're now having kids, and man, I can't have this big old thing running around the house. My wife wants me to get rid of it. I've had it since it was this big. I just can't bring myself to kill it. Well, donate it to a zoo, or do they still have the snake farm in Laplace? Somewhere, someone has one. But for God's sake, y'all, don't release it into the wild. Next thing you know, we've got another huge problem in our ecosystem, all because you thought it would be cute, you thought it'd be nice to have, and you're an animal lover, you can't bring yourself to kill it. Well, think about all of the folks' livelihoods that you could be putting in danger because you didn't do your due diligence, you didn't do enough research. It would be great if the darn things tasted like apples. I mean, you know, here in Louisiana, we'll eat anything that doesn't eat us first. Not a big problem. But something like this that carries the potential for harm and the potential health effects, all because we didn't research it properly, and when the darn thing got too big, well, just chunk it in the river, throw it in the bayou, you know. Next thing you know, apple snail problem for rice growers and crawfishermen. All it takes is just a little bit of time to do some research. And the good news is we have this marvelous new invention. Some of you all may not have heard about it just yet, but it gives you information pretty much about anything, anywhere on the planet. I know it's a novel concept, but it's called the internet. Go online, research these things before you contribute to a problem that could decimate two of the time-honored traditions in Louisiana, our crawfishermen and our rice growers. They deserve better. All right, final break of hour number 1. We'll get that done, come back, put a big old bow. Ooh, and I forgot to tell y'all, forgot to tease this. I am giddy today. I have been giddy since Friday. And listen, I know, Clarence, men are not supposed to be giddy. I am gleefully giddy. And black men, especially, are not supposed to be gleefully giddy, but I am. Coming up in the second hour, one of my favorite people on planet Earth will join us. And on top of that is somebody that you know, and we're going to get to spend as much time with him as we want. Clarence, who is it? Who is it? You got to stick around to find out. Final break of hour 1, and we're right back here where you've got it on the Monday edition of the Clarence Bug Show, only on the Pelican. Stay close.
Hi, I'm Bobby Yarborough with Manda Fine Meats. Here at Manda, we know what the folks of South Louisiana love. They love great flavored smoked sausage, delicious deli meats, and specialty items like boudin and andouille sausage. Manda Fine Meats has been providing these products since 1947. We produce them right here in Baton Rouge, so you know you're always getting the freshest product at your local grocery store. Manda Fine Meats. Taste the fresh local flavor in everything we make. Make it Manda every time.
No one can stop me when I taste the feeling. Nothing could ever bring me down. Nothing could ever bring me down. Taste the feeling.
Exiles from what you ask? Exiled from the radio. But now, we're on your television.
I'm Bill Perfita, he's Kevin Gallagher, and they kicked us to the curb.
But we're back.
We are back with Exiles Television on the Pelican Broadcasting Network. We're going to bring you the newsmakers. We're also going to take your calls and give you great information. It's going to be the best damn radio show on television.
Look for it on your cable system or download the app, PelicanSportsTV.com.
From appetizers, pasta dishes, and entrees, La Contea takes pride in preparing all the Italian cuisine we know you love. Enjoy live music every Thursday through Saturday from 6 to 9, happy hour weekdays from 3 to 6, and brunch on Sundays from 11 to 2, as well as dinner portion-sized lunch specials for under $10. Visit our website to view our menu and book a party or meeting in our large banquet room. Once you try La Contea, your Italian dining will change forever.
Live and play on the fairway at Greystone Golf and Country Club, a serene, challenging golf destination located in Denham Springs. For tee times and membership opportunities, go to GreystoneCountryClub.com.
Welcome back to hour one of our Monday edition of the Clarence Bug Show. If you're just joining us, first of all, shame on you. Where have you been all morning? Clarence, I got to work. I'm sneaking a peek at you on that internet thing you were talking about a little while ago. I can't let the boss catch me goofing off at work. I understand wholeheartedly. Just open up another page, and when earbuds. There you go. Put your earbuds in. Open up a different page on the computer, and whenever you hear or see steps coming around the corner, just switch the page real quick. There you go. There you go. That's how. There's always more than one way to skin a cat. I can relate to this next guy, and I will tell you why after we see it. Dr. Anthony Fauci has had more than his fair share of criticism throughout the course of the COVID-19 pandemic. There are those out there that think he's a flake. There are those out there that think he is God's gift to the healthcare community. There are those of us out there that think he falls somewhere in between those two extremes. But ridicule has not been reserved one way or the other. I mean, you know how we Americans are. If we love you, we love you. If we hate you, we hate you. But I've always been one of those that's of the opinion, if you can't laugh at yourself, then you have no right to laugh at anyone else. If Dr. Anthony Fauci subscribes to that theory, then he is laughing hysterically at himself. As you all know, opening day for Major League Baseball finally occurred not so very long ago. And Dr. Anthony Fauci was given the honor of throwing out the first pitch for the New York Yankees and the Washington Nationals. For those of you that have not seen the video, I won't spoil it for you. For those of you who have seen the video, I will allow you to relive the moment. So if we would, guys, out in the truck, let's roll the video of Dr. Anthony Fauci throwing out the first pitch.
Dr. Anthony Fauci to throw out the first pitch.
Now, I am thinking that Dr. Fauci got his signals crossed from the catcher. Apparently, Dr. Fauci was of the opinion the signal the catcher gave him was that the runner on first was trying to steal second base, and he should have thrown to first. I'm assuming. I'm assuming. That was as horrible a display of a first pitch you will ever have in your life. Now, let me say for the record, as someone who has had the privilege and the pressure of throwing out the first pitch twice, two separate occasions, at the box on LSU's campus, I understand the pressure that this guy was under. If you've never done this before, it's easy to point the finger and guffaw and just laugh hysterically when you see it. If you've never done it, you have no idea what kind of pressure is involved with this. I will never forget. You got to realize when you throw out the first pitch, the team is not on the field, okay? You're the only person on the field other than your catcher. And if it is anywhere near a major stadium like the box, they put you on the Jumbotron. So you're looking up into the stands, and for those of you that have to do this in the future, worst mistake you can make is to look into the crowd, because then you realize every single eye in that stadium is on you. I mean, it's bad enough they have you up on the Jumbotron. It's bad enough if it's a televised game, millions of people are watching, but as you are walking out to the mound, probably more pressure than throwing the pitch itself. Fortunately, when I got to throw out the first pitch, fortunately for me, I played Little League ball and was a pitcher. So, you know, I was well familiar with the mechanics of it and so on and so forth. And it had been, God, I don't know, 45, 50 years since I'd thrown a baseball, but I was an All-American kid, just like, you know, most of the people watching. We all played Little League ball, and being a pitcher is just like riding a bicycle. It's something you never forget. Maybe Anthony Fauci never learned to ride a bicycle. I don't know. Now, to his credit, he is 75 years old, okay? So at 75, some people, God bless them, and you can say anything about anybody in South Louisiana as long as you either start or finish the phrase with bless their little old hearts. Bless his little old heart, maybe he didn't play ball as a kid growing up. I don't know. But out of all of this, the worst mistake, aside from that horrible throw, the worst mistake I think Anthony Fauci made was in the interviews afterward. He confessed that I practiced beforehand. I think I might have kept that to myself. I just would have said, hey, it's been 60 years since I've thrown a baseball. You know, what you see is what you get. But for God's sake, y'all, if you blow it, don't tell people that you practiced. A dear friend of mine, whose name I will not call, but y'all know him. He's got a show on this station with another guy, but he'll remain unnamed. I'll leave y'all to decide who it is. When he had the opportunity to throw out a first pitch at the box, he two-hopped it. and most coaches will tell you, don't bounce it. If anything, go high. At least that way you had the excuse of, well, I was going for a curve and it got away from me. You know, you can always have a built-in excuse if you do that. But I doubt if he will ever live that one down. Just saying. I mentioned in the last break that I have been just giddy ever since I got confirmation that our next guest was available and would give me as much time as I wanted in the second hour. He is a legend. Aside from his exploits professionally, but more than anything, he is a genuinely good person. Y'all have got to stick around. This is going to be absolutely wonderful. Tell you what, final break of this hour, and then we will all be giddy in hour 2 of the Clarence Bugg Show. Stay close.
Hello guys, it's Debbie. It's time. I've got a brand new location. 10510 Airline Highway, Baton Rouge, next to After 5 Tuxedos. We have the perfect spot to get all your wedding and formal wear needs. Come see our one-of-a-kind name brand and get great prices. With 30 years experience, the best customer service anywhere. It's Debbie's Bridal, Airline Highway, Baton Rouge. See you soon.
No one can stop me when I taste the feeling. Nothing could ever bring me down. Nothing could ever bring me down. Taste the feeling.
Furniture and Appliances, your dependable independent. Depend on us for service, for selection, for price. Get huge Whirlpool savings. Shop now and save on Whirlpool appliances throughout the store. Plus, experience our price match guarantee and ask about special financing. You can depend on the know-how of people who live appliances every day. Bolello's Furniture and Appliances, your dependable independent with nationwide buying power.
For total home pest control, who are you going to call?
Call the Bug Man, 923-BUGS.
For total pest control for your home or business, call the original Salvat.
Call the Bug Man today, 923-BUGS.
Welcome back to the Monday edition of the Clarence Bug Show. If you are just joining us, first of all, shame on you. Where have you been all morning? Second, you missed me saying at the last segment that ever since I got confirmation last Friday that I was going to be able to spend some time with this gentleman, I have been absolutely giddy, gleefully so. And yes, I know black man's not supposed to be giddy. Y'all will get over it. You all are big guys and girls, you'll get over this. But the reason I have been gleefully giddy is because I am graced with the pleasure and the privilege of having on the show a gentleman that is a Hall of Fame coach. He is an author, but more than anything else, he is a great human being. He is, my humble opinion only, the epitome of the American dream, and I am proud to call him my friend. We welcome to the Clarence Bug Show Hall of Fame author, coach, and just all-around good guy, the legendary Coach Dale Brown. Good morning, my friend, and how are you today?
Clarence, golly, if I don't feel good today after that nice compliment, I don't know what can.
Bless
you know,
your heart.
when you were so gracious to say those kind things, it reminds me of John Wooden, because most of us will say, "Well, that's humbling," or "Thank you," and that's it.
Right.
But I'll give you a little example of what kind of person he is. If I was half the person he would be, I'd be elated. We were sitting in TJ Ribs one day having lunch.
Mm-hmm.
It was during my basketball camps in the summer.
Right.
I saw a young gentleman about 40 years old standing off on the side. And just as we picked up our ribs, he came over and said, "Excuse me, Coach Wooden, I don't mean to be rude. I don't want to shake your hand. I don't want an autograph. I don't want a picture. I just want you to know this, sir. He said, "You're a legend, you're my hero, and you're one of God's angels." He said, "God bless you." He started to walk off. Coach put down his ribs. "Young man, come on. What's your name, young man?" "Clarence Buggs." "Clarence," he said, "you just made an old man feel real good.
Wow.
But I wouldn't want you to leave here under false pretenses, who I really am." He said, "I'm still a work in progress. I'm not what I ought to be. I'm not what I could be.
Right.
I'm not what I should be. But I'm sure glad I'm not what I used to be.
Amen.
But you stimulated me to be a better man." That's how I reply to your fine compliment this morning.
Well, bless your heart. Coach, for those who don't know, what was your upbringing like as a child?
Well, I guess you can say this is rather bizarre. It started 2 days before I was born. My biological father abandoned my mother and I, and two older sisters, 12 and 11. Never came back, never wrote, never called. My mother had to move from the farm into a one-room apartment above a bar and a hardware. We had no bathroom, shower, toilet. We had no beds. My mother had a little thing that pulled out from the wall, and I had a little tiny sofa that was about 5'8" long,
Right.
and I could touch my mother's head all the time. But what it was like growing up in that one-room apartment, she was uneducated, only had an 8th grade education. She had to go on welfare, which is very demeaning. And thank God for welfare. And I hear people say, "But everybody on welfare, they should get a job." Yeah. Talk to my mother about that. She had 2 jobs. She was a maid, and she also babysat for people. But we got $42.50 a month from welfare. Never did I ever hear her complain about it. She stressed to me, as a young child, I can remember the things she told me about you looking for a helping hand, look at the end of your arm. We're all, when you judge people, we're all children of God. You judge people, on their character. She was really a good woman, and I think probably she did it, Clarence, in a way, she didn't talk it. My mother, Edgar Guest, my favorite poet, he described my mother perfectly, and I'm going to give you a story of how he described her.
Okay.
2 times in the middle of winter, 35 below zero, I saw my mother come home with groceries, take it out, cross out the peas, the bread, the milk, sell the meat. 2 times I saw her go get her winter coat without telling me what she was. "I'll be right back, son." "Where you going, Mama?" She came over and she said, "Oh, the lady at the Red Owl gave me a quarter too much change. I saw her do it 40 cents at the Piggly Wiggly store." So Edgar Guest said, "I'd rather see a lesson than to hear one any day. I'd rather you walk with me than to merely show the way. The eye is a better teacher and more willing than the ear. And the counsel you're giving may be very fine and true, but I'd rather get my examples by observing what you do." Now go back to the 15th century. St. Francis of Assisi said we should preach the gospel every day, and if necessary, use words. Words are cheap. Actions tell you what kind of person you are. So I had a wonderful, wonderful mother.
I hesitate somewhat to make a minor correction, but your mother had 3 jobs. You forgot to mention being a mother and raising 3 kids.
Most important job, that's right.
So why did you decide to write Getting Over the 4 Hurdles of Life, your book?
Because I think we all live that. We don't talk about it. There's no pill, prayer, prescription, or magic wand you wave, but what do we have to face in life to really be successful and find happiness? Well, number 1, as soon as they snip our umbilical cords, we come out of the starting blocks, there's going to be 4 major hurdles set up. And at the end of that race, if you successfully negotiate those 4 hurdles, you will find success, peace, and happiness. Hurdle number 1, I can't. Or worse yet, being told you can't.
Right.
Now that's gone on since the beginning of history. I'll give you a paramount example.
Okay.
Shaquille O'Neal was cut off his high school team. His coach told him, "You're too slow, you're too clumsy, you have too big of feet, you could never be a basketball player. Why don't you think of being a goalie in soccer?" Well, Shaquille O'Neal didn't give up on that dream. And that happens to all of us. Then hurdle 2. You believe you can, and then all of a sudden, you're going to have some kind of failure. So now what does failure do to most? Failure depresses people. Failure makes you feel inferior. Failure makes you feel less significant in life. But it's not, we're always talking about IQ. Clarence, your intelligence quotient is not nearly as important as your FQ, your failure quotient. You go through history. The biggest failures, well, let's take Thomas Edison. In the rooms we sit in, we got lights going on right now.
Right.
He had 7,500 failures before he got that light bulb to light. Number 3, you're going to have some major handicaps. Now, you can get over I can't, you can get over a failure, but you're going to have handicaps, all kinds of handicaps. I think probably the paramount example would be Oprah Winfrey. She was raped as a little girl. She had a child at 13. She thought numerous times of committing suicide. She lived in terrible poverty. So can you have anything worse than that?
Good point.
But she overcame it. And then I think the final thing, you get over I can't, afraid to fail, handicap, and then all of a sudden, here's the one. Most of us, when we die, if we're buried, we're probably going to have this 4th hurdle wrapped around our necks. It's called know yourself. Where am I? Who am I, and where am I going? Let me give you a paramount example of that.
Okay.
Pete Maravich and I had a nice conversation one time. And I asked him to talk to our team, and he came and talked to our team, Clarence. He was, he didn't try to impress them at all. He got up and he started talking about, what life, what everybody says, you become a millionaire, this is going to happen to you. I've heard that since I'm a young kid, he said.
Right.
You become this, you become that. And he said, let me tell you about it. That's not important. He said, I was so frustrated, disillusioned, and bewildered with my life. He said, you know what I did? He said, I drank too much. He said, I took drugs. He said, I chased every girl I could. I used to have $3,000 to $4,000 in my pocket. He said, I was a miserable human being. One night, my home in Louisiana, he said, I even tried to communicate with extraterrestrial people. Finally, he said, I was so depressed. I went into a spare bedroom. I opened up the drawer. I took out a pistol, and I put it to the roof of my mouth to commit suicide. Somehow, he said, I don't know why. He said, I laid that pistol down. I fell prone on the bed, and I said, I don't even know if there is a God. I've spit at you. I've mocked at you. I've made fun of you. But somehow, some way, touch my life. He said, Coach, I can't explain this to you. He said, the sun didn't dance in the sky. The sea didn't part. But all of a sudden, for the first time in my life, he said, I felt the peace. He said, I was a miserable SOB until I took God into my life. A few weeks after that, or a few months maybe, we were in the dressing room talking prior to a game.
Right.
And he said, Coach, why do you think? He said, why do you think people get that way? He said, I said, well, I don't have the answer, but I could give you hopefully it would help. I said, in 1806, the first dictionary ever printed, under the word success, had it described as fortunate, happy, kind, and prosperous. Now, that rolled off my tongue pretty easy.
Right.
Fortunate, happy, kind, and prosperous. Now, today, and whatever year that was, now being 220, it hasn't changed. The Webster Dictionary now describes success as attainment of wealth, fame, rank, and power.
Wow.
So we've distorted our values. And by the way, this is the other thing, Clarence. You can't con your way over those hurdles. You can't buy your way over them.
Right.
You can't run around them. You got to jump over them. No connections. No matter how rich you are, no matter what color you are, what religion you are, what connections you have, you got to jump over them. So it goes back to what my mama taught me. You're looking for a helping hand, Dale? Look at the end of your own arm.
I'm going to have to use that one sometime. Coach, sit tight right where you are, my friend. We're going to get our first commercial break of this hour out of the way. We are talking with a legend, an individual that more so than anything is as down to earth as you will ever find. He is an author. He is a friend. He's a great guy. The one, the only, the incomparable Coach Dale Brown. Quick break, and we're back with more right here on the Clarence Bugg Show.
Sometimes life is wonderful, and sometimes it's not. Cherish the good, but always be prepared for life's challenges. At Private Healthcare, we provide the peace of mind you deserve. With Private Healthcare, you'll get the coverage you want and healthcare you need. If your employer doesn't supply healthcare coverage and you don't qualify for Medicare or Medicaid, you need to give us a call right now. Private Healthcare is private health insurance for ages 65 and under with medical, dental, vision, and even prescription coverage. When life comes at you unexpectedly, you need to be ready, and health insurance is your financial safety net. Health insurance has never been so easy and affordable. If you're looking for health coverage at the best price and your annual household income is $35,000 or more, call the number on the screen now and speak with a live healthcare consultant. Don't wait. Get the coverage you need now.
I'll leave for a little while. And all you other letters think you can take over my town. Look at you. None of you's even a vowel. If the people want the money they deserve for their accident,
the E-guarantee.
And as for you other letters, it's time you were erased.
That's right, the Clarence Bugg Show is back, along with the Exiles, Bill Profita and Kevin Gallagher. We've put the band back together, South Louisiana's talk team, and it's only on the Pelican. 10 a.m. till 12 noon, right here on the Pelican.
From appetizers, pasta dishes, and entrees, La Contea takes pride in preparing all the Italian cuisine we know you love. Enjoy live music every Thursday through Saturday from 6 to 9, happy hour weekdays from 3 to 6, and brunch on Sundays from 11 to 2, as well as dinner portion-sized lunch specials for under $10. Visit our website to view our menu and book a party or meeting in our large banquet room. Once you try La Contea, your Italian dining will change forever.
Welcome back to Hour 2 of our Monday edition of the Clarence Bugg Show. We are so delighted this hour to spend time with Coach Dale Brown, who very graciously sent me a copy of his book, Getting Over the 4 Hurdles of Life. Coach, in your book, you devote a chapter to having a positive outlook on life. Why is that important, especially in a country as blessed as ours?
I think it would be a troika of reasons. Number one, I think it was just in my genes. Number two, when you really analyze things, go back into the news media, go back into people. We used to always accentuate the positive and diminish the negative.
Right.
Now we diminish the positive and accentuate the negative. So what is it going now? If that happens, you're going to be called Pollyanna. I remember I did an interview in 1972. Just got here. Geez, I can't believe it's been that long ago, 48 years. And the writer, he wrote an article that Dale Brown has rather a Pollyanna attitude. He said, if he wins 2 games with the talent he has this year, he said it'll be a greater miracle than Lazarus rising from the dead.
Wow.
Man, that stimulated me. I cut that article out. I put it up on all of their lockers and everything when the season started.
Right.
That team wound up winning, being in the first division of the Southeastern Conference, had a winning record, and as a result, came from the bottom of the barrel almost to the top of the barrel. Now, the French call it idée fixe. Whatever you fix in your mind will happen if you will it, not wish it. Everybody wishes they could be happy. Everybody wishes they could be rich. We all wish we could be better people. Wishing is daydreaming. Willing it concentrating on it, focusing on it, laser beam, and not being stopped. So some people say, oh, that's just positive. Well, be negative then, see what happens.
You also devote a chapter in your book to, quote, choosing the right road in life. Why don't more of us do that? Is it more of a lack of knowledge and preparation? Is it more of taking the path of least resistance? Or is it some combination of both, Coach?
Boy, that's a very profound question, and the simple answer was I think it's a combination of both of them. But it's like I tell you what, it really is. We think somebody else is going to do something. But what can little old me do? Well, the impossible is what nobody can do, Clarence, until somebody does it.
Right.
And the idea of saviors, that's been built into our entire culture. We learn to look to stars and experts in every field. And what it does, it surrenders our own strength, demeaning our own ability and causing us not to act. So it goes back again. If you go through history, great social transformation, as the end of slavery, the women and civil rights movements, the end of colonial rule, they all began with public awareness and engagement.
Right.
A few courageous and committed people brought about change. They organized, they demonstrated, they protested, they were beaten. Ask the wonderful John Lewis about that.
Correct.
Went to prison, some murdered, but they reached the conscience of the nation and they brought about change. And I've traveled in 90 countries throughout the world.
Wow.
Is America perfect? No. But there's no place on earth where you have a chance to be perfect than here. So we've got the opportunity. If we don't take advantage of it ourselves, well,
shame on us.
The pandemic's going to be with us for a long time. It's going to be beyond COVID-19.
You know, Coach, life has always been about overcoming the adversities that we face. Do you have any idea how we have arrived at a point where so many of us feel that we have the, quote, right to go through life, not face any adversity, not have our feelings hurt, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? How have we arrived at this point, Coach?
I think I would describe that very simple. Apathy, complacency, relying on somebody else. And if you'll go back through history, there have been 21, Clarence, notable civilizations in the world. 19 of those died from within, not by conquest from out.
Right.
So the world's got to learn, first of all, to work together. Napoleon Hill, he described it perfectly. I love his writing. It said it'll be recorded by the last chapter of man's crimes that his most grievous sin was that of intolerance. Now, you don't have to be a Rhodes Scholar to figure this out. I'm a North Dakota guy. I told my grandson I had a 4-point grade point average in high school. One is a freshman, one is a sophomore, one is a junior, one is a senior. But if you want to really change the system, I can't give you a better example than the great dynasty of the Boston Celtics. They have won more games than any NBA, more NBA championships than anybody. Now, what was their secret? How were they able to do this? Well, let's start with this. Their teams were made up of black players, white players, Catholics, Protestants, and by the way, Clarence, they were coached by a Jew.
Right.
Now, we're all running around looking for theories and searching for explanations on what makes a great organization or how can we be happy, how can we be successful. It's very simple. We have to all learn to work together. The best potential of me has always been we, and nothing will change.
You mentioned earlier in giving examples of individuals overcoming great obstacles and adversity, you mentioned Shaquille O'Neal. What did it mean to you to have Shaquille write the introduction to your book, Getting Over the Four Hurdles of Life?
He's still, you got to know him to really love him fully. He looks like the exterminator. He's really Bambi on the inside. I've never seen anybody more benevolent and giving. And it's funny, if you'll see him, he doesn't have a whole group of posse running around with him.
Right.
Who is he the best with? I'll tell you who he's best with. 3 types of people.
Okay.
Little children, older people, and 3, the down and outers.
Yep.
The homeless, the people that don't have anything. And the celebrities don't impress him, but they do. Now, give credit to his mother and father for that.
Yes, sir.
He told me a story one time about his daddy. He said they didn't have much. His daddy was in the Army, wasn't drawing much salary. They stopped to get a bunch of hamburgers. And boy, he was so excited. And they were driving down the street, and all of a sudden his dad pulled over, and he saw a homeless guy with a old guy with a military jacket on, or a cap, or one of the two.
Right.
He stopped and got out of the car, and he took the sandwiches and gave them to the guy.
Right.
And he got back in the car and said, "What are you doing, Dad?" He said, "Do that. He needs it worse than we do."
Wow.
So just reach out and help somebody. Golly sakes, it doesn't take that much.
You have had the opportunity to engage countless individuals throughout the course of your professional and personal life. What is it that has allowed you to remain so rooted and grounded all these years, Coach?
Well, I would say several things. I think of my mother. I wouldn't be considered a religious person because I think religion is man-made, but
right.
spirituality comes from God.
Correct.
I recognize, I'm not afraid to. That's a great question, and I never thought about this for a little while. After I retired from LSU after 25 years, my wife and I said, we'll take about a month off, decide what we want to do. During that month, you just examine your conscience, what you do, what can I do, what do I want to do. Well, I wanted to help people. I wanted to make a difference. And that difference came to the fact, I looked back at my career and thought, did I really try to do my best? Well, after pondering it, you know what I recognized?
What's that?
Clarence? My limitations, my mistakes, and my distance from the ideal. And I thought, I want to do the best I can do. I want to speak up, and I know there's times maybe you should be silent, but my dear friend Harry Edwards, one of the most powerful statements ever made is silence has always been evil's greatest ally.
Wow. Wow. With all the social upheaval in our country today, how much do you think of this, Coach, is due to the fact that so many of us have never set foot outside of this country to see just how good we actually have it? And that's not to say we should ever stop trying to be better, but to hear some people these days, you would think America is the most evil country in the history of mankind, when in fact, my humble opinion only, it's the exact opposite.
I've had the opportunity and the pleasure and the honor to travel in 90 countries in the world. Now, are we perfect? No. We have to understand our history. African Americans have had to suffer through 250 years of slavery, 90 years of Jim Crow, 60 years of separate but equal, 35 years of racist housing policy. And until we recognize and understand that and stand by our black brothers and sisters, we won't bring about change. Well, with that in mind now, excuses are like belly buttons. Everybody can have one.
Yep.
We have the potential. And right now in those 90 countries, our ghettos, let me take you to a ghetto. Let me take you to Haiti.
Yep.
Let me take you to Calcutta when I went to visit Mother Teresa.
Amen.
The opportunities, if you can't succeed in America, even with the negatives we have and the corrections we need, you can't make it any other place in the world.
That's right. That's right.
We should count our blessings and also look at our flaws.
We are spending some time today with Coach Dale Brown. And we're going to get our bottom of the hour break and get a little deeper into what America is facing these days. Don't go anywhere. We're coming right back with more of the Monday edition of the Clarence Bugg Show, only on the Pelican. Stay close. Okay. Well, we had a bit of a snafu in the truck, so welcome back. Welcome back to the Monday edition. Coach, I have had the pleasure, the privilege, I've been blessed to host the TV shows for 4 Hall of Fame coaches, yours included. And there's always been a common thread among you individuals that have achieved greatness. It's a love of God and country. How sorely missed is that in America today? And if we can't recapture that, what does this bode for our future?
Well, I think we always have to be totally honest about things, but in the process, we forget an awful lot of things. I mean, we can correct our flaws, and I kind of feel, and again, I go back to my mother. I think when we all die, and hopefully go to heaven, there are 4 questions God's not going to ask us when he sees us,
Okay.
Clarence. He's not going to ask you, hey, Clarence Buck, what kind of car did you drive?
Yep.
He's going to ask you how many people you drove who didn't have transportation.
Wow.
God isn't going to ask Dale Brown, hey, Dale, what's the square footage of your house? But you know what he's going to ask me?
What's that?
How many people did you welcome to your house? The third thing God isn't going to ask us, how many material possessions do you have? But he'll ask you if you shared them with others. The fourth thing, God won't ask what neighborhood you live in, but he's going to ask us how you treated your neighbors. And I would sum that. Boy, I love your questions. They're deep thinking. They're not just yes and no's. And we're not talking about basketball. What I think of this game. What I think of that game.
Right.
But here's really what I honestly believe from the deepest part of my body. We've lost our moral compass.
Yep.
And there's no easy way to answer our cultural crisis, but following the 10 Commandments and living by the Golden Rule. That'd be a good start.
Yeah.
Because if we don't, then this pandemic is going to turn into, as I mentioned, 19 to 21 notable civilizations were destroyed from without. So I would say, if you could say to me, leave one message with all of us, I think it'd be pretty simple. Man can fly faster and higher, Clarence, than any bird in the history of the world.
Yep.
Man can also dig deeper and longer into the earth with more efficiency than any burrowing creature in the history of the world. The only thing we still have not learned to do is walk on earth with love and respect for each other. When we finally do that, we will then and only then find peace, love, happiness, and success. And if you go through life all the time blaming somebody else, now you have to blame anyone that doesn't think racism doesn't exist. They're either in a coma or dead.
Yeah.
It does. But we have to work through those things and look at our good points and hold hands. And I pray every night. Every night I go to bed, I say the same little simple prayer. It's just a little thing I've made up myself. And one of them is, let us learn to live together as brothers and sisters.
If ever you all wondered where greatness comes from, well, now you know. All right, just got the word from the truck. We got all of the snafus out of the way. So we'll take this quick break and come back and spend some more time with one of my favorite people on God's green earth, the incomparable Coach Dale Brown. Stay close.
For total home pest control, who are you going to call?
Call the Bug Man, 923-BUGS.
For total pest control for your home or business, call the original Salvant.
Call the Bug Man today, 923-BUGS.
No one can stop me when I taste the feeling. Nothing could ever bring me down. Nothing could ever bring me down. Taste the feeling.
Live and play on the fairway at Greystone Golf and Country Club, a serene, challenging golf destination located in Denham Springs. For tee times and membership opportunities, go to GreystoneCountryClub.com.
Belello's Furniture and Appliances, your dependable independent. Depend on us for service, for selection, for price. Get huge Whirlpool savings. Shop now and save on Whirlpool appliances throughout the store. Plus, experience our price match guarantee and ask about special financing. You can depend on the know-how of people who live appliances every day. Belello's Furniture and Appliances, your dependable independent with nationwide buying power.
Exiles from what you ask, exiled from the radio. But now we're on your television.
I'm Bill Profita, he's Kevin Gallagher, and they kicked us to the curb.
But we're back.
We are back with Exiles Television on the Pelican Broadcasting Network. We're going to bring you the newsmakers. We're also going to take your calls and give you great information. It's going to be the best damn radio show on television.
Look for it on your cable system or download the app, PelicanSportsTV.com.
They said I could find you here. Why are you fishing? Our company's got to ship out 2 full color brochures and 20 color copies. You're killing me.
It's done. Designed, printed, packaged, and shipped.
How?
You just got to know the right people. Baker Printing, the printing people.
How come you get to fish in this private lake?
Like I said, you just got to know the right people. You can know the right people too.
Welcome back to hour 2 of our Monday edition of the Clarence Bug Show. We have been spending time with the legendary Coach Dale Brown today on the Clarence Bug Show. Coach, you know, the quote thing these days is the removal of Confederate era statues. You talk in your book about how we choose to look at life. Personally, and some may find this hard to believe, but as a man of color, personally, I want to keep the statues because every single time I see one, it reminds me of how far we've come, and more important, how blessed I am to live in a country where people fought themselves for my benefit. And in the short time since this happened, since mothers fought daughters, since fathers fought sons, since neighbors fought neighbors, so that Clarence could get an education, Clarence could live where he wanted, Clarence could own property, Clarence could vote. In that short span of time since then, we've elected a black president. We have black governors, black mayors, black chiefs of police, business owners, et cetera, et cetera. Look at the greatness of that. Am I oversimplifying that, Coach?
I don't think you're oversimplifying it. I would add an asterisk to that.
Okay.
Far too many people prefer not to know the truth because they want reassurance what they believe is the truth.
Right.
Others are afraid of speaking the truth because they're worried what others might think of them.
Mm-hmm.
And you're betraying your whole life.
Yep.
We don't say what you think. Let's get to those Confederate statues.
Okay.
This is my feeling about them.
Mm-hmm.
I think they should be pulled down and they should build a beautiful Hall of Shame. We've got a lot of Hall of Fames.
Right.
We should build a Hall of Shame and say we can't do this. We can't have this happen.
Uh-huh.
Because if you go back and look at I'm a lifetime member of NAACP.
Mm-hmm. I know.
And when you go back, people don't know this, but most people are totally unaware. The founding fathers of the NAACP in 1908 were 4 blacks and 4 whites.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to look. See, suggestions are light years apart from solutions.
Right.
Now, light travels 186,000 miles a second. So if I say light years apart, can you see how far apart they are?
Right.
So we must all know the facts before we can have a solution.
Mm-hmm.
And there's some facts we don't want to talk about. We don't want to. I'll tell you, Dick Gregory. Now, most of the young kids, they don't even know who Dick Gregory was. Dick Gregory was a dear, dear friend of mine. Sent his daughter at LSU. She became a Rhodes Scholar. She played basketball for LSU. Dick was, the first black comedian ever to break into the lily white nightclubs in this country.
Right.
He also was probably the most intellectual person I've ever met. He was so smart, you think he was goofy, he was so smart.
Right.
But he told me a great story, and I'm going to share that with a Nelson Mandela story.
Okay.
He said it was in the early movements of the Civil Rights Movement. They were in Atlanta. Big, long mahogany table, 25 feet long, and they were arguing amongst themselves, and they were bitter and fighting, and this is the way to do it, and we got to burn this, we got to do that. And he said, Martin Luther King, for about 45 minutes, sat at the end of the table, arms folded, never said anything. All of a sudden, he rose, he bent over this big mahogany table, put his hands down, said, stop, 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 stop. You're going nowhere. He said, you're going nowhere. Let me tell you the answer. He said, the Emancipation Proclamation will not set us free. He said, what we must do, you're going down the wrong road. What we must do, he said, we must do this. If our children are going to be superior to or equal to the white man, they must get an education.
Yep.
Then, one night, I'm not real good at a lot of things, but I'm the greatest channel surfer in the history of the world. My wife will not watch television with me. She refuses. She goes upstairs. But one night, I'm flipping the channels, and all of a sudden, something makes me back up to this channel. They had a guy sitting on a prison bunk, and they were interviewing him. And this interviewer held out his arms, and he said, Mr. Mandela. And I had no idea it was Nelson Mandela. Never heard of the guy.
Right.
He said, I can touch both walls with my arms. 3 steps I can walk at the end of this cell. He said, 27 years. You unfairly have been in prison. You've been 10 years in prison in this cell. How is it possible that somebody wouldn't lose their mind? Only as Nelson Mandela can do, with a very benevolent smile. He said there were 2 reasons I didn't lose my mind. Number 1, God never left my side. Now, if there's anyone that should question, is there a God,
yes, sir,
would be a man that's for 27 years been locked up and be treated terrible.
Yep.
The second reason, he said, I had a commitment in the marrow of my bones that all of the black people of South Africa should be free. However, before you can ever be free, you must be educated, disciplined, and we must be respectful to others.
Amen.
Well, let's talk about that. People don't want to talk about black-on-black crime. You're a racist if you bring that up.
Yep.
I don't want to bring my people will be mad at me. We can't talk. We can't do that. We have to have an open... You should be able to say to me right now, ask me any question. If I don't answer you honorably, then I'm a coward, number 1. You're not going to solve things that way. You're not going to solve things with, being quiet again.
Yep. Coach,
speak up.
How disheartening is it for you to watch the media and others tell people of color that you can't do anything by yourself? This country is dedicated to stopping you from achieving your best, when you spent your entire professional life telling young black men you can achieve anything that you want to if you're willing to work hard, because that's what America affords you. How disheartening is it for you to watch that these days?
I think probably some people will sure consider me Pollyanna, but I think this has been the toughest period of my life to watch what's going on. All the negativity, all the stuff, and what direction is there to take? And the direction has been laid. I think, and this is not embellished at all,
okay,
I think one of the greatest men that ever walked on this earth was Martin Luther King. I think his ideas, his attitude, and he told us, what is freedom? He says there's a danger that those of us who've been forced so long to stand amid the tragedy of oppression will become bitter. But if we become bitter and indulge in hate campaigns, then the new order which is emerging will be nothing but a duplication of the old order.
Amen.
Change can only happen. Now, this isn't Dale Brown.
Right.
What the hell does he know about being black? I don't know anything about being black, but I know about being a human being. I saw my mother intimidated by welfare workers and landladies, and a young boy said that'll never happen again. But I do know this: change can only happen through education, justice, and unity. It's that simple. And when man will only be free when he reaches down in the inner depths of his own being and analyzes the situation. So when that's done, and it's pretty simple, it's just little tiny things, like just putting your arm around somebody or telling them you care about them. And look, I'll give you a perfect example. I think this is a perfect example. I'd been kicked out of a class for swearing at a nun, this Catholic school I was going to.
Okay.
And I didn't swear at her. I didn't even know she heard me. She was one of these mean little hit you with a ruler and that stuff. And she had a hearing aid, so I didn't think she could hear me when we walked out. And one of the guys asked me what I think of her, and I said, she's a SOB.
Right.
So I get to the next class, there's a knock on the door. Now, the former coach is the principal.
Ooh.
He happens to be a Catholic priest.
Okay.
And he gets me up against the locker, and he asks me, what just happened in your last class? So I'm trying to con my way out of it. You know?
Right.
Well, what do you mean by that? You know what I mean. What did you just call sister in the last class? Oh, I swore at her. So now he comes a step closer to me. You swore at her? Is that what you say? I swear at you? I thought he's going to pin me to the wall, and I didn't want to say son of a bitch, which I called her.
Right.
So I said, well, I called her an SOB. Now he's right in my face, and he grabbed my shirt, and he sort of twisted it around, and he said, now, Dale, I'm asking you once again, what'd you call her? And I said, I called her a son of a bitch. Well, he kind of banged my head off he didn't mean to, I don't think, but he banged my head off the locker.
Right.
And in the meantime, I cut my own lip, I guess, and I felt a little blood. And I thought to him, yeah, that's a typical male image, because I didn't have a very good impression of male images.
Right.
My male image left us, so I always kind of tested people to see if they were fake.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought, as soon as he lets me go, I'm going to deck him. Rita, I had that in my mind.
Right.
And all of a sudden, Clarence, and right now, all these years later, I can get emotional. He squeezed the back of my neck, and he hit me. He says, Dale Brown, you can make something of your life. And he says, man, I love you. And he walked down the hall. And I remember turning, looking at him with a bleeding lip. I don't want to make this up. So Mike Tyson hit me. That wasn't it. But a bleeding lip, I thought, that's the first man that ever told me he loved me in my whole life.
Wow.
I adored that man. Now, if you'll ask any of my 160 players, even if I was mad at him, there's not one of those kids that I did not tell I love and believe in. Did I had to discipline some of them? So we just have to use some sanity. Golly sakes. I went to a little teacher's college of 500. As I told you, I was a 4-point grade point average. One is a freshman, one is a sophomore, one is a junior, one is a senior. But you got to use some sense. I mean, just to show love and compassion to somebody doesn't take anything extra.
Nope. Coach, I hope that it will be many, 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 many years from now when you are no longer gracing us on this earth. What do you hope Dale Brown's legacy will be?
All I know when I die, am I a work in progress? Oh, golly, yes. Man alive, count my mistakes and things, etc. But I want to always be fair to people. Now, being fair sometimes means you have to discipline a person.
Correct.
Maybe suspend him from a game. If he doesn't listen, maybe tell him he should transfer. Now, I loved all my players. Some of them I didn't like some of the things they did.
Right.
But I never had any... I think people are searching, not for handcuffs put around them, or not for brutalization, but I think they're searching for something that's honest. And so it goes back... goes back to just, I think probably the thing that stirred me up more than anything in my life. I came home one time for lunch. I was eating my soup, and there was a welfare worker. I could still see her, Clarence, in her black dress. And my mother was a sensitive, loving lady.
Right.
And she's intimidating her. And she says, you know, you get $42.50 a month from Ward County Welfare. And last month, you spent $12.50 or whatever, $13, whatever it was, on digitalis, and I had no idea what it was. It was a heart medicine.
Right.
And she points to me waves her hand towards me like a little, well, can't he? Not can your son, or does Dale have a job? Can't he get a job and help you? Well, he does. He sells papers. Well, she says, go get your purse. And I saw my mother was in the process of crying. So the woman took my mother's purse to go through it like she was hoarding money or something. Wow. You'd hoard a lot of money, $42.50 a month in the welfare. And I remember sitting there eating this, and I'm going to say exactly what I better not say exactly what I felt.
Thank you.
I felt this. I looked at her, and I thought, you know what I wanted to say.
Right.
And I said, never again in my life will I ever see an injustice and not act up about it. Mm-hmm. So I think watching my mother go through that, and then she taught me a lesson. She came home one night from babysitting, and I think this is the answer why I'm outspoken. Mm-hmm. She came home one night. I was waiting up for her, and she asked me to sit in this chair we had. She pulled up the footstool, and she says, son, I've got something to tell you, and it's embarrassing for me to tell you this, but I'm ashamed of it. Mm-hmm. I thought, ashamed of it. My mother never drank, she never smoked, she never swore, she never talked about anybody, she never talked about her husband who left her. Mm-hmm. And she said, when these big shots come and pick me up to go babysit, she said, I'm so self-conscious, Dale, that they'll ask me, they'll smell the mothballs on my clothes, they'll ask me, what's your husband do?
Right.
What college did you graduate from? And I don't want to say he left me. I don't want to say I have 8th grade. So what I do, son, and I don't want you to do in there, this, she said, I go look up big words in the dictionary.
Wow.
And she said, then I study those big words, so when I get in the car, I kind of control the conversation by injecting these big words. And she said, son, don't ever do that, because you know what that is? She said, that's making an image. And Dale, she didn't call me Dale, she said, son, if you spend too much time polishing your image, you'll eventually tarnish your character and be an unhappy man. Don't do that. Now, if she'd had a 9th grade education, she would have said, but don't open your mouth all the time. So I listened to her partially.
Bless your heart. Coach, I want you to know that I thank God for blessing you with greatness and blessing us to be able to witness it, partake in it, and be a part of it. But I also thank you for listening to those lessons in life, for taking them to heart, and more important, for being willing to act upon them regardless of consequence. It is an honor, sir, to count you as a friend. Thank you, and God bless you, Coach.
Clarence, have we got 1 minute or
yes, not? I'll make a minute for you. Take it.
I don't mean to embellish this, but I've watched you. I can throw the same thing back to you. And what I think also we have to do, all of us, black, white, green, purple, tall, short, fat, rich, poor, whatever, quit making excuses. George Washington Carver, who grew up in a slave family, he became an inventor and professor at Tuskegee University.
Right.
He said 90% of the failures come from people who have the habit of making excuses on everything.
Yep.
And so we have to look at ourselves. What are our flaws? I go back now and I think, golly sakes, 44 years of coaching. Boy, if I was an amateur, if I could start all over,
right,
I'd be much better. So I'm not blaming anybody. I never blamed a father that abandoned us, that I never ever called a father. I called him, my mother told me once, your father, and I said, you mean your husband? I didn't have a father.
Right. Bless your heart.
We just have to, and we can't look to stars and experts in every field, surrendering our own strength, demeaning our own ability, and causing us not that. And simple, thank God I felt this. If you're looking for a helping hand, as my mother preached, look at the end of your own arm.
Coach, I gave you that extra minute, and there is a small fee that I have to charge you for that extra minute.
Oh, golly, I'm ready to pay.
Are you? We have to do this again sometime, my friend.
You do it any time. You're a special guy, and I saw you on television the other night. I thought, wow, you got to be on national television. Not catering to anybody, just telling the doggone truth.
Well, I give you my word as a gentleman. I will never stop doing that, Coach.
That doesn't surprise me at all.
God bless you, my friend. Stay safe,
Thank you,
Coach.
Clarence, and thanks for the opportunity to be on your program.
The pleasure was all mine.
Love you, my
friend.
brother.
Love you too, big guy. Take care.
Bye.
Wow. Now you know why I've been giddy since Friday, gleefully so. I understand not everyone in life has been blessed the way I have in a professional career to sit at the feet of greatness. Eddie Robinson, Dale Brown, Roger Cador, Pete Richardson. I understand not everyone has been so fortunate. I thank God that He has blessed me to be in a position where I can share others' greatness with others. It's very seldom, and I was thinking about this last night. Outside of a national emergency, a catastrophe, a disaster, I can't remember in 40 years of broadcasting where I have devoted an entire hour to one person. If ever there was an individual that warranted that, if ever there was one of God's children that was worthy of that, Dale Brown is in that category. I would admonish him to, Coach, please don't ever change. Always remain the wonderful person that you are. But I don't need to do that, because at this stage in his life, at 85 years of age, it's all he knows. He couldn't be anyone else, even if he tried. Of all the things that I have in life to be grateful for, that's yet another that he will never ever change and will forever be the down-to-earth, philosophical, scholarly, loving and caring individual that he is. Love you much, my friend. Love you much. That being said, my time is up and I gotta go. But again, this day, more than any other, I give it to you. You're right. America, we're not perfect. But doggone it, for my money, it's the best there is. And God knows, there's no place else on His green earth that I'd rather be. Speaking of the good Lord, you realize He loves you, right? And you know I do too. Either way, ain't a doggone thing you can do about either one. See you Wednesday. God bless.